everybody, and Happy New Year. Happy 2024, and welcome or welcome back to our LinkedIn learning sessions. It might be a new year, but we are still back here every other Thursday, talking all things employer brand and employee storytelling, just to add some nuggets of information to your week. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone had a really rejuvenating and relaxing holiday, and that you are back and excited and ready to take on the new year. So we have a really great session to kick us off. We are talking about 2024 employer branding, culture communication, talent brand trends, specifically in the world of employee storytelling and content creation. So these are trends that are inspired by our conversations with our wonderful clients of things that they're kicking off in the new year. It's inspired by our LinkedIn feeds and conversations with everyone in the industry, as well as the work that our teams are doing every day. So we're taking all of those conversations and we are bringing you what we think are the biggest 6 employer branding content trends for 2024. It's not just me here today. I'm joined by my panel of experts, in my opinion, some of my wonderful colleagues from Stories Inc., who are here to talk through these trends with all of us today. So I'm going to bring everyone in. We're going to do a quick introduction, and then we will jump into it. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
So just kind of kick things off, just let's quickly introduce ourselves, who you are, what you do at Stories, and then in the spirit of the new year, I thought it would be fun to do maybe a 2024 goal that you have, either personally or professionally. So Jill, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Stapleman, a partner here at Stories Inc. And my goal for 2024 is to finally try to learn a language. It's been a goal forever in my life, and I have signed up for French classes, so they start next week.
Amazing. Congrats. And also, if anyone has any goals they want to share in the comments, please add them in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Doyle, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Doyle Maurer. I'm the creative director here at Stories. And my goal for the year is actually kind of related to stories. I want to find ways to tell stories in a full way, but also in a concise, quicker way than in the past. So just continuing to figure out how to tell the best story in a quick way.
Cool. Anna?
Hello, I'm Anna Lippy. I'm the Director of Customer Success at Stories. And my goal for this year, which many of you probably can do, is run a 5K. I don't think I can do it, but maybe I will get out there and try to see if I can make it happen. So
I believe in you. I have full faith. Okay, and last but not least, Lauren.
Well, Anna, I'm with you. Let's bring the fitness. I'm going to do a pull-up this year. I was definitely the kid that just hung there till the time ran out in elementary school. So maybe this year is the year I will do hopefully more than one pull-up, but it will be for the very first time ever. So that's a New Year's resolution for this year.
Awesome. I love that. We got a little cultural, a little professional, and a couple of fitness goals thrown in. Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. So we're going to kind of go through each of the trends, and we'll kind of see you as we're pulling you back in. All righty, Doyle, kicking us off.
Yeah.
So our first trend, and it would be kind of remiss of any trends conversation not to talk about AI. 2023 is a big year for AI, and I think it's a trend that's only going to continue into the new year. So can you just tell us a little bit more about what has AI meant for content creation, and then what do you kind of see coming this year?
Yeah, I think kind of like you mentioned, hearing the word trends and not hearing the word AI is kind of impossible at the moment. So I think AI is going to mostly make things easier for people that are creating content in 2024. But some people hear AI and they think, oh no, the world's changing and like AI is going to take over. I don't think that's the case in any way. I think AI is going to be more like a calculator in the same way that we used to do math by hand. Now it's a tool that helps us kind of make the math easier to do and frees our mind up for other more important and creative tasks. So they're going to be things that can handle the repetitive tasks that free up our time to be more creative and really more human in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's the piece that people fear about AI. It's like you're losing kind of the human side of things, especially in content and in the world that we live in, an employer brand and culture communication. Like the people are, what we're doing, and it's like what the content is about. So with the rise of sites like ChatGPT and all the kind of like technology and everything like that, I know there's a lot of options out there, but I do think ultimately the human element of employer brand is still always going to be human. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think some people hear AI and they think like Terminator robots, like learning and taking over the planet kind of things. And yeah, I don't think that's the case. So
yeah, so in terms of specifically with content creation, I know even our team has implemented AI kind of like a few places across our how we create our content. Can you tell us a little bit of those ways? So if you're out there and you're creating your own content, these are some ways that you could use AI to speed things up and to improve the work that you're doing.
yeah, so first I think to talk about what AI is going to do, it's going to be easier to talk about the things that I don't think AI is going to do anytime soon, if ever at all. The first being that conversations people to people are always going to resonate with people the best. So telling real stories about real people doing real things. So those facilitated interactions that you have with people are where the best stories come from. And AI can't really replace that. That's one. There's another thing that AI can't do, and that's kind of replacing the nuanced understanding that leaders have when they're thinking about their organization's company culture and sort of the strategy that drives forward the content creation on the front end. So those are a couple of the things that I don't see happening. But with that, I do think there's going to be a lot of ways to use AI to kind of enhance the creativity that we do have. So for us so far, AI tools have already streamlined, like you said, a lot of technical aspects of creating content. And in 2024, we expect a lot of culture communicators to be using AI to create more employee storytelling content, but doing it more efficiently, which is kind of just a win-win, like being able to tell better, more personal stories in a quicker way. And that kind of goes in hand with the shelf life of content also being kind of shorter, like attention span shrinking. Everybody kind of knows that's happening. So needing to produce more content more often, it's a good time to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think some ways that our team is using AI right now is, number one, when we do an interview, we have it all transcribed so we can see all the content that we collected in one place and piece together the stories. So now a lot of that transcription can happen through AI. We get the audio from an interview day. AI can kind of listen through it and put it in text form really quickly. So that's a faster way to get the content that we need. We use it to help with color correcting. So color correction is one of those areas where it's pretty time consuming to like make the colors match from one shot to the next. But what AI can do is kind of assess shot A and shot B and read shot A to make shot B match it a little closer. So that's another tool where it just makes it a little easier than in the past. There's other things like audio enhancement. So, a lot more people are recording remotely. Sometimes there's an environmental sound like a refrigerator, things like that. AI is really good now at analyzing the noise in a room, separating it from your voice, and being able to help isolate the person speaking or the audio that's in the video. So it can kind of help remove some of those noises in the background. Another thing is it can help us, if you ever need to like remove something from the background, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this on their phone now. You can like select something and just very easily remove the background. Maybe a lot of people don't know they're already using AI quite a bit when they do that. So it can automatically detect subjects and, for example, on a video call, blurring your background, all of those things are based in AI. So we're using things like that. And then the last big one that I think of is there's a pretty cool tool that's pretty new where it can detect objects. You can just kind of circle them and type in what you want to replace. So in the past, if you wanted to remove an object from a photo, for example, you would need to take a little tool that's like a copy and paste for a photo, find areas that match, and then cover them up with others. It was really tedious. But now there's a tool where you can just circle and replace objects in photos, which is pretty neat.
Wow, all of those are really cool. And I know we have one quick visual that we're going to share of a way that you can use some of that. I think it was generative AI. I think
that's right.
That we're going to share in a second, because it is really cool to see. But I love even the comparison that you did at the top of AI to a calculator kind of thing, that it's not replacing the whole job. Like you still have to know how to use the tool and how to do it to kind of get to the best end product. But it just kind of speeds that process up a long way.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm going to share this super quick example because I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to do that. But yeah, so that was kind of a silent video, but just you could see the implications when you're creating video, in my opinion, in terms of like if you're interviewing someone and the background's not quite right, it's distracting, you want to have a better viewer experience for your audience, being able to more efficiently kind of move through that process of creating the best visual is super valuable.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say about that too is like it's great for photo right now. It's not quite there for video, but I could see maybe not in 2024, but soon in the future, being able to do something similar for video, where that object's now moving, we're replacing it, adding a new object, and the new object is moving. So this might be the first step to something like that in the future.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Doyle, for sharing a little bit more about AI for employer brand content creation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All righty. So next, I have the pleasure of being joined by my colleague, Jill. Hey, Jill.
Hello.
And our next trend is seeing employer brand kind of turning their focus also internally and doing more collaboration with internal comms. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So I'm going to talk about this, and you're going to see a trend in the rest of our trends that suggest that employer brand roles are going to be increasingly responsible for engaging and retaining employees in addition to the external work they do. So when you think about the metrics and things that you do as employer brand practitioner now, like brand awareness, impressions, website traffic, employer brand leaders are being asked more and more to own or at least weigh in on things that are happening within internal comms and employee engagement. And this evolution makes total sense. If your employer brand is truly the reflection of your culture, all the content that you're creating externally for candidates should also resonate internally with employees. We all get that. But now I think we're going to start to see these roles kind of marry and meld together a little bit more. And what I found interesting too is that chief communication officers, which are another traditionally externally facing group, are being asked to also start working more with internal comms. In a 2023 Edelman report, 41% of chief communication officers ranked culture as one of the top 5 areas of their investment in the next 12 to 18 months. So lots of stuff happening with bringing the external and internal together.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I feel like even though a lot of these groups are talking about the same things, kind of aligning employer brand, internal comms, chief people officers, people who all care about talent and people and culture, but they have had their own goals, their own metrics they're responsible for. So seeing that kind of alignment is really exciting for the industry. But this is a pretty big change. So if you're kind of used to your job being externally facing, and then all of a sudden, oh shoot, this is a whole new audience, whole new channels, just all these different things to think about. How do you see that change playing out, and what kind of things should people look out for if they're one of these people that are doing more internal work this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to depend on your organization and where you work. So for larger organizations, employer brand teams are probably going to need to collaborate much more with internal comms in lots of different ways, forging new relationships, understanding those established channels that they already have and how they work and what content performs best there. And then I think most importantly, sharing content. So all the employee-driven content that you have as an employer brand practitioner is going to need to find a way to be activated internally. So I think there's lots of collaboration that can happen there in larger organizations. But first, go ahead.
Might just jump in there. I love, it seems simple, but I feel like the forging relationships can sometimes be most important and sometimes hardest, because it's like you're kind of can get in your workflows. And so it's like sharing the content. It's like, we want everyone to be doing this, but it's like, what does that look like? Do you need to update cover graphics? Are there like changing, like just kind of how the content's presented, that there are those conversations and those, just kind of like ironing out those details as you're forging a new relationship, that I just feel like I just want to touch on, that I feel like that's such an,
yeah, definitely. And, yeah, and not feeling like there's a competition there, which I think, can feel that way sometimes, but it's like, we're all the same end goal, employee engagement, getting people to really, resonate with the culture and the brand. So I think there's lots that you can think of there. So,
okay. So that's big organizations. So what's kind of like another way to think about it?
Yeah. So for smaller or mid-sized organizations who maybe have less robust teams, this could mean that you as an employer brand practitioner are shifting your focus to be, content and campaigns that either are both external and internally facing, or maybe just internally facing, given the environment in your company right now. Mm-hmm. So that's a shift. But that could be things like helping to activate core values messages, covering company events, doing employee recognition, all work that if you're doing it internally can eventually be repurposed for external stuff when you start reactivating external campaigns. So I think it's daunting to think about, but there is a silver lining. Like as an employer brand practitioner, getting more insight and more exposure to what's happening internally just gives you more employees to reach out to have their story shared, a better pulse on what's happening within the organization that I think will help you regardless if you're doing external or internal work.
Yeah, I love it. It just makes a lot of sense. Like you said, these stories are resonating with both groups, so we may as well maximize it as best we can. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jill. Excited to see all of the employer brand internal comms collaborations in 2024.
Me too.
Okay. All righty. Welcome, Lauren. Hey.
Hey, I just thought, wouldn't it have been cool if I was trying to do a pull-up right now? I come in and I'm like, I'm doing it. I've already made my goal, but no.
That would have been really, really cool.
That's LinkedIn Live.
and if Jill did her segment in another language.
In French. Yeah. She starts next week and she's just kind of like doing the whole thing in half French.
So in addition to Lauren doing pull-ups being a 2024 trend, yes. What else are we seeing out there? What's the next trend that we're talking about?
Yes. So celebrating frontline and behind the scenes workers is a trend we're seeing. So, 2023 was kind of the year of the labor strike. So we had the Hollywood writers striking to auto workers, and, it really brought this heightened focus on workers' rights and treatment of that talent. And, of course, they were celebrated and supported in lots of ways. And this year, organizations in 2024, it's all about showing appreciation and celebrating those employees behind the scenes. So, these are the people who keep the organizations running. So attention is shifting to focus on the retention and engagement of frontline and behind the scenes team members. So, for example, we're seeing a rising trend in companies creating a video series that can be called something kind of like Meeting the Maker. So a series like this has a collection of individual stories, but also ties them together by highlighting a common work experience. And they're growing in popularity as companies look for ways to recognize and celebrate those very team members that are driving the success of their products and services.
Mm-hmm. So why are you seeing this kind of like Meet the Makers, featuring these behind the scenes workers? Why are you seeing this content be so successful and going to continue to be successful?
Well, I think they're really smart ideas. We work with a lot of very smart people, but it's a really good idea because there's a lot of value that's packed into a series like this. So, for example, first, just asking employees to share their experience is a form of rewards and recognition. And when we talk about a series, we're not talking about 5, we're talking like 20, 30. We're talking about a lot of different perspectives and people you're interviewing. And then second, this type of content that celebrates employees and their experiences can actually help drive employee engagement when it's shared internally. And then thirdly, amongst all of this, so we're talking about retention and engagement and appreciation, but there are still historic labor shortages and recruiting challenges in manufacturing and other industries. And so these videos can also bring key positions to life and show what the culture is really like. So it also engages candidates when shared externally. And this types of content help you differentiate yourself as an employer.
Yeah, so kind of what Jill alluded to earlier, that it's like this is the type of content that it's like it's great internally, it's great externally.
Yes,
like finding a way to create something that appeals to both groups. But yeah, so I mean, to your point, I think these videos can really accomplish a lot. And when you do it in a series format, it's like, if you were to watch all 20 videos in a row, it's like, I think you would have a big idea of what it's like to work there, but then each video can also stand alone. So you're able to speak to kind of like the individual experiences within this talent group. So I think I like love the series format. I think there's a reason why it's gotten so popular on TV. Like, you know what I mean? You can like watch a lot of other like shorter kind of things. That's beside the point, but I love this series format. Great. And I think also from what we've seen so far in 2023, this content performs really well. Like people really like it.
We've seen them work really well in general in the past. And this particular series, we worked with a innovative auto manufacturer on the series towards the end of this year. And it was a great success. So it was shown in the plant to employees where it received a positive response. And then the series was shared by their comms team externally on YouTube and LinkedIn. And both employees and potential candidates commented publicly about how important and meaningful a career in trades is, which is also a big communications thread that the industry as a whole is trying to get across.
Yeah, so we're going to share an example of one of those videos so that we can see kind of exactly what this looks like. So, great. Here we go.
My name is Dina Green. I've been with Stellantis for 10 years. I'm a team leader on Trim 3 Wrangler Assembly. The more you know, the better off you are in the facility. I started out in stock and ended up deciding that I wanted to move over to production. I ended up launching the Wrangler that we currently have now. We went from the old style Wrangler into the new style Wrangler. We were in a little secret room in the back, and we built the Wrangler from the ground up. We were the puzzle makers of the whole thing, right? Anything that we thought didn't work, we got to put in our input to the engineers. We were the ones that had the most input into the car. The hybrid's going to be one of the vehicles that are going to take over. It's the wave of the future. We learned so much about them, like how far they're going to travel for us, how much that battery weighs. It's been an exciting process for sure. When I go anywhere and I see...
I'll stop her there just for the sake of time. But I love those videos so much. And kind of to connect back to your points, it really just kind of celebrates the work that these people are doing, and it connects the work they're doing every day with these just like really incredible high quality vehicles. So it really is that employee recognition piece.
And I really loved the series because it also, like, the innovation in tech was awesome in all the manufacturing plants we went to. So they're almost like a silent character in the videos, you know, so we would made sure to focus on the B-roll and the music to kind of bring that to the viewer. But I love that series.
Yes. Awesome. So to kind of quickly summarize 2024 trend, featuring those behind the scenes frontline workers, specifically like a Meet the Makers style kind of series, but it really works well internally and externally in being able to bring your culture to life.
Absolutely. Yes. Thanks for letting me introduce that trend. It's one of my favorites.
Yes. Thanks, Lauren. All righty. Next, we are welcoming back Jill. Welcome back.
Thank you. And I want a 2024 goal of mine to own a new Jeep Wrangler too, because those look awesome.
Same. Honestly, same. Well, besides that, what is another trend that we can expect to see in 2024?
Sure. So I think another trend is continuing to activate employees as brand ambassadors. So employee advocacy has been a growing trend for quite some time. Gartner predicted that by 2023, 90% of B2B companies would include employee advocacy as a social media strategy. And it's really no wonder why, because the data shows that employees sharing their perspective on social is a win-win-win for companies, ambassadors, and candidates. So I'm going to spout out a few more stats, but I think they're really important. So employee advocacy is good for companies. So what we've seen is companies with employees sharing high quality content and thought leadership are 58% more likely to attract talent. And employee advocacy is great for ambassadors. So 86% of employees who participate in employee advocacy programs say it positively impacts their careers. And it's great for candidates. So 76% of individuals say they're more likely to trust candidates shared by normal people than content shared by brands. And LinkedIn says that 6 people a minute are hired on their platform right now. And so if you think about that magnitude and you think about your people on LinkedIn sharing your company story, sharing their stories, it's a great way to get the right information in front of candidates by the people that they already know.
Yeah, I love all those stats. The one that kind of jumps out to me, because I think sometimes when you think about doing this, it's like you feel like you're making an ask of employees, like, but the fact that people are reporting that it's positively impacting their career, they're getting value out of it, they feel like they are even more involved in their organization, that there's all these positive things that come out of it, it really does make it a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely. And there's another Edelman report just recently done called Trust at Work, and it has some stats in there of over the last 2 years, the trend that's been happening with employees on their own, just wanting to share about work and sharing their personal work stories. So it's a trend that employees want too.
Yes, so it has been growing, but I know we do kind of think that 2024, there's going to be kind of like increased activity here. So what does that kind of look like? How are we going to see employee advocacy continue to evolve in the new year?
Yeah, I mean, as we see more and more companies standing up these programs, it just means there's more competition for social media attention and, what's in your feed. And so I think the emphasis is really going to have to be on quality. So making sure that your ambassadors' posts stand out. So to me, the real winners in this space are going to be companies who have ambassadors sharing personalized content that really captures the attention of their network, not just content shared from advocacy tools or platforms, which that stuff's great. But I think to stand out, you're going to have to get your ambassadors sharing more. And so in this vein, I think the focus of advocacy program leaders is going to need to be from, moving from how do we amplify this content we already have to how do I train my ambassador team to be able to have the confidence to share their own stories on social and help connect the dots for their followers of why they're in a meaningful career and why this could be a great place to work. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into that. It means probably a lot of training for ambassadors and really helping them understand how to do this well. And I think, spending your time there and a focus on training and getting ambassadors to feel like they've got the confidence to do this effectively just means you have more empowered ambassadors. They're posting better content, let's be honest. It's an engagement technique for them. They feel more engaged to a program if they're getting constant training or just reinforcement of like, here's how to do things well. And I think ambassadors see things like this as a perk and a career growth opportunity. Mm-hmm. It helps them build their brand, build better thought leadership, and, just be a better communicator on social and out in the world. So lots of good things that can happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to keep overusing the word trend, but I think like the interconnectedness of outcomes is something that we've been hearing all day today. Yep. Of it's like good for all of these different groups.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your 2 cents on employee advocacy in the coming year.
Of course.
Okay, so our next trend is kind of in a similar vein, but really worth talking about specifically. And to discuss that, I'm bringing back Lauren. Welcome back.
Hello. Thanks for having me again.
Yes. So can you tell us a little bit about humanizing leadership, a topic I know you care a lot about, and what that is going to look like in 2024?
Yes. So Jill shared some really compelling data on the power of employee advocacy just now. And that's also something I'm excited about. And this impact becomes even more pronounced when you activate your leaders on social media sites like LinkedIn and help them share their stories and build connections with their audience.
Why is it worth kind of like separating out these groups a little bit in terms of how you think about it, how you strategize? So you have your brand ambassadors, but then we're really talking about leaders. So like, why is it worth it to focus on leaders?
Yes, I think several reasons. The first is that they could be experts in their space. So that would be one. The second would be that they could have very large networks. And also they could have large untapped networks that are just waiting to be activated. So I know that was certainly true for me. I'm a co-founder of a small company. I never posted my own thought leadership until this year. I kind of hid behind the corporate channel if I had something to say. But I have a lot of connections because I've been in the working world for quite some time and I've built that network over time. But I wasn't really engaging with my connections in a public way. And now I am, and I'm seeing the benefits of that. Another point is that leaders, especially founders and the C-suite, have a perspective on the business that people really care about. So first, they can give insight into strategic shifts in company decisions. They can talk about what they learned about along the way and why a company did something in this particular way. But also, we've known for a long time that the best performing content is really about how leaders got to where they are today. So think about kind of that, how I built this model, but for careers. We've known that that's the best performing internal content for quite some time. Employees want to know how their leaders got to where they are and looking for insight into how to build a career that's similar. So that type of content's also especially powerful for a leader who may have started at their company and are now a leader at that company. So they have this path that they can kind of share how they got there. So I'd say those are a few reasons to focus on leaders.
Yeah, I love that. And as a marketer, I love the idea of just like honing in on an untapped audience, that it's like potentially there's all these people who they want to hear from you and they're ready, like they're there kind of thing. That it really is.
It's already been built. Just activate it. Like it's already there. Yeah, it's like a missed opportunity. I love thinking that way as well.
Yeah, it really is a no-brainer. So how do you see this strategy actually kind of being executed? So what does it mean for companies? They're like, okay, I get it. We should humanize our leaders, but what do I have to do?
Yes, I know Jill mentioned something similar, but thoughtful and really good content that's helpful and engaging and valuable to people is actually pretty hard to do, especially for someone who doesn't already have that content creating muscle. They're not someone that's in communications or marketing. They're not used to talking about themselves in personal ways. So communications and marketing teams need to play a really major role here in supporting their leaders' personal brand content strategy. They can do that a few ways. The first is identifying, what the brand objectives are, and then helping the leader kind of pair those personal experiences with those objectives. And then also help the leader discover their voice, uncover those impactful experiences, help them discover their perspective, and then kind of look for ways to complement, that and brand objectives. But, I thought authenticity is the word of 2023. Still true in 2024, still very important, will probably always be very important. But the whole point is to not turn your leaders into branded robots, to help them really be themselves and to bring their real voice through. I'd say the other thing is, consistency is key and possibly the biggest challenge. And, I know for myself, I believe in this type of posting. I've been doing it. I see the benefits. I see it working for me and our brand. But I have trouble posting consistently without a thought partner. So that's just a reminder to support those leaders. It's valuable. It works, but they're going to need some support.
No, I think that's all really good advice. So that's kind of a lot on the strategy side of things, but what actually, you've shared a couple things, but types of content that you can be creating that works really well here.
Yeah, like building on our discussion earlier and our trends, I love when we can tie them all together in some way. A leadership series is a really good idea. You've got the time of a leader already. How do you make the most of that time? And I would say, creating a series that you can space out over time on LinkedIn. And there's lots of topics that are relevant to an audience. For that leader. So I know we've already mentioned a few, but just kind of to recap is, why they make certain decisions that they have for the company, what they've learned along the way, and that like how I built this, things that happened in their career, mentors that they had, that if leaders are uncomfortable talking about themselves solely, focusing on those that they learn from or those that help them along the way is a good idea. And of course, if there's subject matters and experts in a certain discipline, to absolutely talk about that and tap into that. So those are just a few topics for what a leadership series could be.
Yeah, those are all really great ideas. Awesome.
Oh,
well, thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you.
Look forward to seeing more leader content in the new year.
Yes, me too. See you later.
All right. Last but not least, we are joined by Anna Lippi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you introduce our last trend for us today? So we've done 5. What's number 6?
Ooh, let's do it. Number 6 is activate employer brand globally.
Awesome. I love it. So why is this something that companies are going to be focusing on in 2024?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2023 was really a year for EVP refreshes as companies settled into new work rhythms and realized their culture content was outdated, especially as we all got out of the pandemic. But there's still a lot of work to be done to activate these EVPs and bring them to life. So a trend that I'm seeing a lot of in this new year is, if you're a global organization, really shifting the focus globally and creating content that highlights that employer brand around the world.
Yeah, I think it's such a good call, because not to always kind of like harp on the pandemic, right, but it's like for years, kind of like culture was evolving. We didn't really know what work looked like. It was changing so much. And then travel was limited. So there was a lot of factors that kind of went into that global content creation piece kind of being put to the side for a bit, that I think is just something that companies are realizing that it's time to bring this to life, you know, really focus their employer brand efforts on that global scene if you are a global organization.
Yeah, for sure.
So what does that kind of look like in terms of actually creating content to activate that brand globally?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as a global company, it's really critical to communicate how your culture is experienced by all team members, not just those in close proximity to your headquarters. So for global employer brand leaders, like many of you, this content really falls into what we think of as sort of two categories, universal and then local. Universal culture content answers the question, what do employees experience no matter where they work, whether that's Boston or Bangalore? So understanding what's consistent about your workplace culture and the world is really incredibly powerful and assuring to candidates. So those topics often include things like mission, purpose, and benefits, as well as culture themes like flexibility, innovation, DEI. So those should be really consistent no matter where in the world the employee or associate is sitting.
Yeah, and just to kind of reiterate what you said, it's like when you think about what that actually would look like in a video or a blog post or any other piece of content, it's like to hear about mission or to hear about flexibility and then see someone from Bangalore and Boston and South America and Australia. It's like to have all these different global perspectives. It is reassuring, and it shows that it's like not just a one-off kind of thing. It really is just pervasive throughout the organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's universal. What do people have to think about when they think about activating their global employer brand locally?
Yeah, so beyond the universal experience, company culture can drastically differ per location, and candidates often have different questions and expectations due to cultural nuances and unique office cultures. So while we have that, again, that universal, consistent culture, each location is, of course, still going to have its own feel that should be reflected in the content. So for example, we uncovered stories from a global video game studio where we conducted interviews and uncovered stories from storytellers in the United States, Canada, Ireland, and China. And we were able to reflect what was universal. So that's a commitment to the game and the players and their deep technical expertise, as well as the unique culture in each office. So that was things like the small team and collaboration that really was somewhat unique and specific to Shanghai. So the more specific your employee stories, the more insight you give candidates, and the faster you can move them through the candidate funnel, which always is a good thing and our goal.
Yeah, no, I love that example that it's like a unique office size in Shanghai, and it's like that affects what it's like to work there. So you should talk about it.
Exactly.
And I know we're doing another session on kind of global brand activation in a couple weeks, which people should tune into. But as you're thinking about doing a project like this, it's like you have to put your content planning hat on. That it's like, if I'm going to visit Shanghai and visit Ireland and the US, you know, there's a lot of work that goes into that, and making sure that you're thinking of the universal themes that you want to talk about, think about the local implications of things, just so that you can make the most of your time when you're uncovering those stories.
Yeah, it's a great point. And kind of one thing we did that was kind of fun for the Shanghai video, even though the entire video was in English, we started with each storyteller saying like, hello, welcome to the Shanghai office in Chinese. And so we have, of course, English subtitles. The rest of the video is in English so that it is applicable and you know, or that anybody in the US could also follow the video, but we do have a nice opening in Chinese. So that's just a little touch to make it really feel personal and local to the office.
Yeah, I love that. Great tip. Awesome. Well, thanks, Anna. Thanks for telling us a little bit more about global EV activation, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty, well, that's all we have for today. Just to quickly recap, the 6 employer brand content trends we see for 2024 are AI for employer brand content creation, the alignment of employer brand and internal comms. We have featuring frontline and behind the scenes workers in Meet the Maker series, employee advocacy, humanizing those leaders on LinkedIn, and last but not least, global employer brand activation. So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope that you liked the session. If you do, follow Stories Inc. We host them every other Thursday, and we will see you next time. Here's to a great 2024.